And the sweep. It's a nice little summary problem. How many of you have already completed it? No one person, anybody else?
I finished it, but I'm not sure about the measurements because they don't give you exact measurements. They just tell you like how much it should be. So it's a little bit different, but itself it looks like the example.
Okay, so cool. It looks like the example. That's neat. So yeah, anybody have an idea how you're gonna make it so that it's approximately 30 cubic inches of volume?
The mass properties.
Okay, mass properties, yeah. But how using the mass properties? Because let me show an example of what I'm asking you to think about. Here I have this rectangular block that I show. If I go to mass properties on this, what is it telling me?
I don't see it on the screen. I don't know if you're sharing it or not.
Yeah, you gotta share your screen. We can't see it.
Now you can see it. Sorry about that. So I have this rectangular block that I've shown. I went to mass properties. You see the mass properties on the screen. Tells me the volume, but that's the volume of the material, the blue rectangle. Is there another way to see the volume of the open area? But you got an idea on that?
Would it be the section properties?
Or are the second properties?
I know you talked about it last class. It's that or measure.
And I don't know. I've got a shell. Click on it. So what if you didn't know the answer to what I'm asking? Is there a way to do it? I had heard from another source that there was a new feature in SolidWorks where it could tell you the volume of material removed in a shell. And if I wanted to find that was a new feature, what could I do to get to that answer? Because I'm not seeing it on here. If I were to click the help button under mass properties, it just brings me to this. And I don't see any words on here unless I'm missing them because I'm trying to skim it that says that. There's this one called Mass Section Property Options dialog box. Click that. I don't see it there. Is there any hint in the homework on how to do it? In other words, they give you all these instructions. Well, another thing you could do, you could run a Google search. I thought I had it up. See if I can bring up another window, go to my history. Measuring the internal volume. Okay. So there is a way that you can do it. you wanna know, like this vase. So you made this pretty vase and you were gonna give it to somebody. And you wanted to know what the volume of the liquid would be inside. There is an interesting way you could try using measuring internal volume through what's called the intercept command. They have one of these hundreds of commands that are built in the SolidWorks. So for those of you that are already done with this exercise, you might want to play with this feature known as intercept and check it out. I'm going to show you a different way in just a few moments how to get the volume, but this actually works pretty nicely. Again, intercept, I believe it said, I already forgot. You go to insert features and intercept. So that's easy enough. Insert features, intercept. Then you can see on my screen what that looks like. So that's kind of a cool thing. Check it out. That's a way to figure out the volume of this. But let's put this guy to rest. We don't need it. What I was just playing with. Let's do this mug. I said we were going to do problem 4.6, so I want to make sure we're doing that, and we have plenty of time, and maybe even pretend we're going to 3D print it and slice it, and see how long it would take to make it. If we wanted to make it. So what does it say at the top of page? Well, in my book, it's 142. Problem P 4.6. It says design a mug as shown in figure A. The mug should hold approximately 30 inches, 30 cubic inches, that makes more sense. Slightly more than 16 fluid ounces. The mug should have a hexagonal bottom, a circular top, and a wall thickness of 0.125. So those are kind of our givens. Okay. That's not too bad. And then it kind of gives you what, 1, 2, 3, 4 bullet points where it tells you how to do this thing. I mean, it's pretty much an easy homework problem because they walk you through telling you how to make it exactly. But the only thing they don't give you are those dimensions. So I'm gonna start. I'll pretend I'm just building this from scratch. So I do a part. I might as well, before I even jump into sketching, let's set my material. You might want to do glass or something like that if you were going to make this mug. I'm not going to do glass because that's too translucent in SolidWorks, and I don't want to have to add color to the thing yet. So I'm just going to pick plastic. I'll do nylon 101. Just to have something picked. And then I'm going to start my sketches on, I guess, the top plane. And I'm going to do the hexagonal bottom first because that's what it says to do. I'm just reading quickly the paragraph. Go to sketch tab. The hexagon is a polygon shape. I just need to give it 6 sides. Say okay, I'm going to do it as a center hexagon. I pick the center. I draw it out. Next thing I got to do is make this fully defined. So the first thing I might do with the sketch is just tell it I want to make this line a horizontal line. That prevents the hexagon from rotating. That means I can't grab a corner and rotate it, all I can do is make the hexagon bigger or smaller. So in this case, that's cool. I'll now define the length of one of the sides, and I'll make it 2.5 inches. Since I'm gonna make this thing in inches, since it asked me to do it in 30 cubic inches as far as the volume. So I have a hexagon. It took two things to make it fully defined. You can tell lower right, fully defined. If I rebuild it, the sketch doesn't have the minus sign in front of it. I might as well save it at this point and just call it something I'll remember rather than the default of part 2. I'll call it Rick of February 24. Then just give it a name, and it's going to go in my downloads folder. It's fine. Okay, now I gotta create the top. Okay, so that's a circle. They told us to make it a circle. So a circular top to this thing. So that means the fastest way I can think of to do this is to create a reference plane. That's sort of the height of my bow. And I'll make it, for lack of any knowledge of anything at this point, I'll just make that plane 5 inches above the hexagon or a top plane. So I put in the first reference, the top plane. I give it a distance of 5 inches. I can rotate my screen to just see, and sure enough, that looks like that'll work. That's fine. So I say okay. And now I'm going to go and do a new sketch on plane 1. So I make sure plane 1 is highlighted. Click circle. Click draw out a circle. And I'm doing a center circle. I could have done a 3-point circle, that would have also worked. But the center circle makes more sense since my origin is centered at the center of the hexagon. Okay, so I've got this circle. All I need to do to fully define it is give it a diameter. So let's do that. Click. And we'll make it, it was close to, make it 5 3/4 inches. 5.75. Now I have 2 shapes. So the top of my mug is going to be wider than the bottom. That's similar to what they did. Okay. Now, we want to do a loft between these 2 features. And between this sketch element and this sketch element, I should say they're not features yet. They're just sketches. Sketch 1 and sketch 2. So I click the features tab. I go to where it says lofted boss face. I define my 2 profiles. I'll click the bottom one first, then the circle for the top. I can reverse the order of these, not that it makes any real difference. It is kind of cool though that I could make my mug have a spin on it. I wanted to do that. Again, we went over that last class that you can play with these sort of control points for playing with that. Maybe we'll put a twist on our mug later, but I'll just keep it this way for right now. So here's the trick for getting that volume. One easy way to figure out the volume of this part is to grab yourself a pencil if you got one. Measure the volume of this object right now. So if I measure the volume, which means go to the evaluate tab, click mass properties. And if I look at the volume on this, it says it's about 104 cubic inches. So just grab a piece of paper and write that number down. So mine says 104 point, what does that say? My vision's too bad. 6.3, I think it says. Okay. Then where you can probably figure out where I'm going. The next step on this should be to shell the object. The shelling of this has a wall thickness. Oh, this is going to be an ugly mug. But the wall thickness is 0.125. I'm going to fix this mug a little bit later. But let's go ahead and do the next feature, which is the shell. That's way over here. I click the shell feature and put in that wall thickness of 1.25. Okay. And I'll click show preview on it. And then I'm going to tell it what surface I want to remove. That's the top, so I'll click that. And then I'll say okay. And now I have my thin little mug, right? Everybody agrees with that? If I now go and look at evaluate mass properties, and I read the volume of this, I get 11.89. Do I
Oh.
not?
Excuse me.
Yeah.
How did you get the wall thickness again? Because mine is still like very thick. Is it
Okay.
.125 or 1.25?
It's 0.125.
Okay, makes sense. All right.
So the way I did that was just using the shell. And it's 0.125. Did it work for you then when you did that?
Yeah, I just have to change the dot because I did 1.25 instead of a .125.
Yeah, that'll make a nice thick mug. And that could work. Okay, so now what do I have is my volume. My volume right now is not very close to what they want. Because remember what I had initially was approximately 104.63, and what I have now is 11.98 or 11.89, I should say. So my volume right now is 92.74. So if I kept my mug like this, it would be 92 cubic inches. Everybody see that? So it's too big, right? So what do I need to do? Shrink it down a little, right? Because it's pretty big anyway. You can imagine how big it is if you just click on things like the measure capability and click on something like, so I didn't get the right thing there, but I click on that edge to this edge and measure that diameter. You can see that it's too big, too far apart. So I can shrink these sizes. Okay, because that's a pretty big mug. Okay, so let's reduce some things. See if we can get much closer to what we want. Don't have to change anything except our two sketches. So let's edit our hexagon first. Instead of 2.5 inches, let's make each of the sides 1.25. Okay. If I were to rebuild, just see what my mug now looks like. It's kind of goofy. But we're going to now shrink that top sketch. Edit that. And make this 2.75. This is for round numbers. Okay, now I have that. If I rebuild it. Got a shape. Now I can move my rollback bar up one level, so I still have the solid object. Go to mass properties. My volume now is too small. Because the solid volume is only 24 cubic inches. So what should I do? Well, let's make the top a little bit bigger. Then I don't have to modify everything. Let's just play with this. Go to 3 inches in diameter. I do that and rebuild. Now I have a look that looks like that. I could go and click mass properties again. Still too small. Okay. We have room. Aesthetically, I like my mug, but I could like it equally well with the top a little bit bigger. But 3.5, and that'll get me close to 30. Hopefully it'll be more like 33 or 34. I say okay.
But you still need to shell the mug, right?
I do need to shell. That's why I'm saying now it's 33.24. So I write that number down. Or I save this to the clipboard by just clicking number here. Okay, but now I've got the 1 dimension. I just moved my rollback bar down. I now have the shelled item. I can now look at the mass properties of the shell. And it's almost 6. So 6 from 33 is not going to give me 30, right? So I got to get a little bit bigger. Okay, and that's right now where it didn't say I have to be exactly 30 inches. It just said close to 30 inches. So I could make it a little bit bigger by making the bottom a little bigger or making the top a little bigger. I'll do the bottom just because we've played around with the top already a few times. So I'll make my hexagon 1.5. Rebuild this little guy again. Just check the mass properties to see what they became. That went up to almost 6, to a little 6.6. Move that roll bar back up one that removed the shell. Check that mass property again. And I got 38.3. So 38.3 from 6.6. I could say I'm super close or I'm close enough. The other thing I could do that I haven't played with at all is modify the distance between those 2 planes. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong thing. Modify the position, what I'm trying to say, of plane 1. Instead of it being 5, what if we made it 4.75 inches? That's probably too much. I think that we're pretty close. I think I'll do 4.9 inches, just to shrink it a smidge. Now if I rebuild, let's see what our mass properties are. 37.5. Okay. 37.5 minus 6.45 is pretty darn close to 30. It's not exact, but if I really had to be exact, I certainly could do a few more of these. And I could be more particular about. But in the interest of time and not totally boring you, I'm gonna say I'm close to having a cup right now that holds 30 cubic inches of liquid. Everybody agree? That, so I'm happy. But I'm not really happy because I don't like this mug being so thin on the bottom. Everybody knows a mug, a stein, should have a bigger base than the top, right? So I want to add a 1/2 inch of material maybe to the bottom of this mug. Well, I can easily do that. Remember, I set what the plane distance was. And that was 4.9. So if I up this by a 1/2 inch, that's going to make it 5 point what? Who's good with math? What's 0.9 plus 0.5?
0.4.
Yeah, very good. 5.4. Just seeing who's really awake. That, so now it's too big, it's too tall. But one of the things you can do with shells is you can have multi-thickness settings. I can define that I want the bottom to not be 1/8 of an inch. But I want the bottom to be a 1/2 inch. I go in down here where it says multi-thickness, I click on the bottom of this by saying select other and that, oh, it's not the left. Yeah, Steve, a little bit. Steve. At the bottom. Put that base on, and I can give this a 0.5 inch thickness. Now, if you look at the preview, that's what I want. I want a mug that's shelled out. Now, if I do a cross-section view, you can see I got the thin walls here, but a thicker base. Okay. Everybody good with that? So I like that better. That's more like the mug I want. Let's turn off that section view. The other thing I want to make this mug is easy to clean. So I want to fill it to go all around the bottom. I don't know if they told you to do that or not in this thing. I didn't read it that carefully this year. But I'm going to assume they want to fill it on here. So I'm going to do a feature, fill it, come in and click, I'll just click this bottom face. Round fill it is what I want. You can see it there. It's showing me in the preview what it's going to look like. I don't need it to be huge, but I just don't want sharp corners on the bottom. So now I got that part of the mug done. Okay. Everybody good? So I'm happy. I should actually save, build, save my mug. Haven't done a save in a while. Feeling really cool about this. I like my mug. I'm gonna make it out of glass eventually. I'll do that. Now I gotta put that handle on. Did they tell me, they say use a sweep, sketch the path. Okay, and they have me do the path in a kind of weird way, but I'll do that. Okay, nothing fancy, nothing great. I go to the top view, I look at it. Now, here's the dilemma on this one. Where did they draw the handle on this one? They made it go, if you look carefully, they didn't have the handle overlay one of these edges. They had the handle going on a face like this one or a face like that. That makes it a lot easier. Okay, I'll show you that. I'll do it that way first. So in order to do that, let's go to we need to draw a sketch that's the handle. So let's go to the right view. Oh, sorry, the front view is what I want. I forgot my orientation. So I'm looking directly at a face. Got that? And I gotta figure out where do I want to place that in. Actually, no, I was correct the other way. Sorry. I'm not paying attention to my own silliness. So I'm gonna sketch on the right plane, because the right plane cuts right through the side of the thing. I'm mistaken initially. Not paying attention. So I need to just draw. And I don't know, I'll do it just like they do, with a little bit of variation. I'll start it, what is that, maybe like an inch from the top? Oh, I have to tell it what plane I want to sketch on. Right plane. Draw a line. I'm going to go out to about here. And then rather than going straight down like they show, I go over to about here. Slight angle between these. And then I'll go straight on in, just like they did. So there's my goofy dimensions, or my not dimensions, my sketch. I need to put a rounded edge here and a rounded edge there. So in this case, I'll just use a sketch fillet, which is one of the sketch elements. So I can just click there, I can click there, and then I can make this. Did they tell us what size to make it? I'll make it about that big. I'll do it half. Okay, so there's a 1/2 inch one. Can I do multiple at once? Let's try it. Sure enough, I can't. That saves me a little bit of time. I don't have to retype anything in. There's my handle. Okay. Everybody good with that? Please interrupt me if I'm not making sense with what I'm doing. Now I need to fully define the sketch. Okay. I need to do that. I want my sketches to always be fully defined, no matter how irrelevant they are or not useful. So I am gonna put some dimensions on this. Okay. So, and again, I like to just, when I'm just doing stuff to do it, I like to just round my numbers. I really don't have to on this case. Whoa, what did I do there?
So, sorry, I missed the how you did the circle there.
You missed what now?
The circle and the slightly the line, the diagonal line, or the
This.
yeah.
That's called a sketch fillet. That's this.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay? All I did was modify my sort of 90-degree angle. They are a little different than 90, and I just rounded them.
Cool. Thank
Could
you.
have done that in another way, but it's easier to do it as a sketch fillet than a feature fillet at this point. Now the bottom one, I need to give that a dimension. And I'll make that 1.5. Just again, to round my numbers up, because I'm gonna chop away all that material. And then I gotta do this dimension. I'm gonna make it the actual length of that line, so I move my mouse around till it stayed, the dimension was measuring parallel to that line. And I'll make that 2.5. Not that it makes any real difference as far as fully defining it. There that is. And then of course I've got to get this thing to be fully defined, I have to give this radius. Tool isn't staying on like I want. No, I don't want to do that. Now. My mistake. It's still blue. Why is it blue? Yeah, it's not pinned to the origin in any way. That's just a fancy way of saying I could grab on this thing and drag it around, as you can see. I could move it up and down, as you could see, and really ruin it. So I need to get this thing aligned or locked in. The best way to do that, if we're really not going to machine this part or make it in any other way, would just be to reference its dimensions. Reference its dimensions to some fixed point like the origin. Now, I want to be a little smart about this from a working later with this part. I don't want it to give me some issues. So I'm going to try something a little different. I'm going to select the end of the fillet and the origin and do the measurements to that. And the reason I'm doing that, and I'm going to make this just rounded off to 2 inches, is I know later on I'm going to remove parts of this sketch because I'm going to chop away that material. And if I come back and edit it, I don't want it to give me any dangling or missing elements. So I'm just using as my reference point where this arc intersects this line versus this just arbitrary length of 1.5 of the straight line. So now I've prevented the part from moving sideways. I just need to do the same thing with respect to going up and down, because that's what I'm trying to prevent. Yes, Mike?
Could you have created a center line down the middle?
Yeah.
Into that?
Yeah, I could definitely have done.
Would it have defined it?
That would have maybe even been better. To create a center line through the part and another center line off of the bottom and dimension to those. That would have been a much smarter way to do this, but I didn't do that. I didn't think about it. But obviously that would be a better way.
Do we need to create the center line, or can we just make it coincident with that like line in the middle that's coming off the origin?
If I knew well, I don't have a line coming out of the origin. I have a line coming out. The origin, remember, is here in the center of the hexagon. So this edge isn't really necessarily a fixed position as much as a center line out of the origin would be. But yes, I could have done that as well. That would also work. I have no issues doing that. Now let's just for fun, I'll do what Michael said though, is I will draw a horizontal line out of the origin. Just the center line there. And then I'll use that to dimension to the bottom here. And maybe that'll do enough to fix this part. Say that's 0.9, just keep everything relatively the same. So it fixed a small part of it, about a third of it. The other parts are still blue. Because what can happen with them? Then I can do this. That by just the way I made that thing. But I can easily fix that, right? I could specify the angle that I want this to be. I could specify distances again. Because this moves up and down, as we can see, like on the circle. So if I fix this distance from here to that center line. That gives me the top. And now it's done, fully defined.
Are you gonna extrude the handle? Or you're just gonna?
Am I gonna what now?
Extrude it?
Oh, I have to, it's not a handle yet, right? It's just a line. If we look at it, there's nothing I can grab onto. But, yeah,
That'd be fun.
you can't drink out of this mug yet. So let's do that. That's what I wanted to do. So let's put the handle on this little guy. And now the easy way is to use the sweep. They tell us to use the sweep. And one of the things we didn't play with in the class on Tuesday was to use the circular profile that's built in the sweep. But I'll do that on this. So my sketch number 3, save my part, is what I want to use the sweep feature. I gotta find sweep. Where's sweep? Right there. Swept boss base. That needs to go in the left side of the screen where it shows the path. If I click where it says circular profile, I don't even need to define the shape that I want the handle to be. It's going to be a circle, and all I need to do is specify the diameter. So I can make it big and
Um,
Yeah.
the sketch of my handle is still underdefined.
okay. So if your sketch is still underdefined, click on it and see how you can move it around. How does it move when you do that?
It moves to the side.
Then you need to put a dimension like I had on mine. Try putting a dimension on it. Let me go back to my sketch. That's not the sweep, but the sketch. Alright, there's the sketch, and if I double click on it, I put it in this 1.5 inch dimension. No, I'm sorry, I put the 2 inch dimension to keep it from moving sideways. Do you have something like that?
And you put it to the origin or to the center line that you made to
I
the
did
origin?
it to the origin. You could do it to a center line if you want.
Okay. All right, I'll
Play
try to do
around
that.
with those a little bit. Alright, so now here's my mug is almost done. A few things to do to it. I want to do a fillet. Where am I? No, I gotta pick up the pace here. I need to fillet this at corner. And also this one. Oops, I missed this. Let's X out of that. Let's do it more carefully and zoom in. I want to put a fillet on that top surface, that top surface. Okay, both of those are 1/10 of an inch, the default. Just because it's better that way. You'll see if I go to change my view where I don't see the edges. You know, I want it to blend in. So we're there. But I got all this material on the inside. So how do I remove this set of material and do the same thing for the chunk down at the bottom?
Trim entities?
Yeah, I have to somehow trim that.
Trim closest.
So under feature, is there a way to do a cut? You've learned that, right? It's called extruded cut. That would be an easy way to get rid of that handle. So how do I do that? I need to do, if I want to use an extruded cut, what do I need to have? I need to have a sketch that says what am I going to cut? what's a sketch that I want to use? It would be the outer edge of this circle in orange, right? Super simple way to get to that is click on the sketch tab, click on convert entities. Just, no, I did that too fast for you, maybe, let me stop that. I click on sketch. Okay. I'm gonna click on this face to say that's the sketch I wanna work on. That's where I want my sketch plane to be. Shouldn't have said the sketch that I want to work on. That's the plane that I want to sketch on. Because remember, when you just click sketch and start trying to draw something, it says, what plane do you want to work on? With all this stuff in yellow is saying. So if I just immediately first highlight a plane and then click sketch, it defaults to saying, okay, that's the plane you're gonna work on. Then I click on convert entities. And I just need to click this outer edge. And say, okay. And it will now draw a sketch, if I did that right. Which is just the circle. But I didn't do it right because it should be fully defined. So let me see who saw what I did wrong on that? How did I mess that up? I shouldn't have to go and do anything to that. No, it is fully defined now. Okay, maybe my computer's just a little weak in the brain there today. Okay, so now I have my sketch. What am I gonna do? Cut, right? Extruded cut. A cut means remove material. It's showing me I can remove the material. I can go all the way through and remove to the other side. But there's a thing called up to next. Up to the next surface is what that means. Or up to the next space. Up to the next object. There is also one called up to surface. But I'm going to do up to next in case I don't even know what I've got. If I try that, what happens? Didn't work too well, did it? Give me a hole all the way through it. Gotta go back and try that one again. Up to next didn't work. But up to surface, let's try that one. But you don't remember what half of these things do, right? Doesn't do anything, won't even get out of it. It says in the error, select a face to complete the specification. And it's trying to tell me that. It's got the pink here and the blue there saying, hey, doofus, you didn't pick what the surface is you want to go up to. Click that inside of the cup and say, okay. Now it's gone. It's not gone on the other side. Okay, now I have a beautifully smooth inside of that mug. Or part of the handle. Gotta do the same thing down on this other handle piece. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna just go back to the front view and I'm gonna go to that cross section view. Say okay, because I wanna be able to see where I gotta work. So I'm now gonna do one more sketch. I click on that end of the handle, click the sketch tab, click the sketch button, do convert entities. I've got that highlighted. Rebuild. Click that sketch. Now I do features, extruded cut. And I've got to just repeat all my same actions I did before. So not up to next, but up to surface. Click that surface. Say okay. Now, my handle's there the way it should be. If I'm looking down the mug, It looks beautiful on the inside, nice and clean. My mug is done. It holds 30 ounces of fluid. Or close to 30. The only thing I don't want to do is have these rough edges at the top. So I'm gonna click on that. Do one more fillet. In this case, I could try one of the other fillets. Like this, what do they call this one? This third one, the space fillet? Because I wanted to fillet this edge and that edge and then blend them together. So this is saying, all right. If I did that, I don't think this will work actually. I want to do the full round with this one, sorry. Try the full round fillet. Click there. And you can see these little icons are trying to tell you what to click on. That's there. Try that. See if I can get it to do it. No, it's not doing it when I do full preview, it didn't show it. Okay, so I'm stuck to the old fashioned fillet. I thought I could show you a different one, but it's not being too nice to me today. So now I clear those selections, zoom in here. Get that. Now the problem is, as you can see, if I rotate this part around. If I rotate it around, I still have this inner edge I've got to fill it. Got the outer one rounded. But not the inner one. So I'll do one more of those fillets. Just like that. See, I was trying to avoid to have to do 2 steps like that. Because now look at what I've got as the tip of this. I don't know if you can see it very well. I've got a ridge there. That's unacceptable. I'm not gonna buy a mug that has a seam like that between the 2 fillets. Okay, so there's gotta be a better way to do that. Anybody have another idea that they could do? Because if you're trying to make a living out of selling mugs, you're not gonna wanna have that for your fillets, right? So in the interest of a few minutes of time, what could I do? Well, one of the things I could do is edit these fillets. Don't make them quite so big. I could drop this down to half this size, like 0.06 or 0.05, something like that. Then suddenly now they will maybe join at the top, because remember what the top thickness was. What's the thickness of the wall? 0.125. So if I split that in half, I could have the 2 blend together nicely. And which is what I was trying to do with the full round fillet. And it probably would have worked, and I didn't think about it at the time, but I had the diameter of the fillet too big. If I had shrunk that value down, it probably would have been okay. Now this looks a lot better. I just gotta do the other one just to really make it correct, because there's still a little bit of a ridge, but I know. You know, what to do is I just put 0.05 in here. Say okay. Now what I've got, you can see the edges of the 2 fillets there. There's nice little tangent arc to those that'll come in. That's not gonna make somebody uncomfortable with drinking out of this mug. Now, one last little tidbit. What if I had wanted my handle not to come out of the flat side, but to have come through one of these edges? So remember, when I looked at this part from